The asbestos story has two sides: American innovation and entrepreneurism, but with a seedy, greedy underbelly. Just like Las Vegas. Welcome to this three-part episode of Asbestos Rewind, Dusted in Vegas. Asbestos and Las Vegas go way back. Way back, like 5 to 20 million years ago. But who's counting? Actually, some UNLV geologists are counting, and they uncovered the long, fiery history of asbestos in Las Vegas. Literally. In fact, their discovery rewrites a lot of what we know about asbestos and how it naturally forms. The truth is that much of what we know about asbestos came from the asbestos industry digging it up and turning it into trains and buildings and products. In the ancient world, asbestos was incredibly rare, sometimes described as more valuable than gold, and reserved for elites. None other than one-man Amazon.com, Marco Polo, went searching for asbestos, having only heard about it as a legend. And as Professors Brenda Buck and Rodney V. Metcalf explain in their publication, large deposits of asbestos are fairly rare, so it's no surprise that the fortunes of many asbestos execs were launched by buying up rights and digging anywhere asbestos was spotted, while sealing the doom of millions of workers and their families. Breathing asbestos contributes to a host of terrible health problems, including cancer, and asbestos fibers are so durable and pervasive that they traveled from the depths of the earth into the homes of America. Health research and ample real-world evidence have demonstrated that asbestos fibers mined during the 20th century caused asbestos-related diseases in everyone from the miners to workers milling and processing asbestos rocks into products, to the people who used those products, to their co-workers, and even to the families who washed their work clothes. Unfortunately, the UNLV research team found that in southern Nevada, asbestos forming in the rocks has made its own way to the surface, and those asbestos fibers are being carried into neighboring communities, including Las Vegas. It all started in 2012 when a Clark County epidemiologist observed higher than expected rates of mesothelioma, a respiratory cancer caused almost exclusively by asbestos. Now, because of its incredible resistance to elements like heat, fire, rust, chemicals, and electricity, until the mid-80s, asbestos was used in all kinds of industrial settings, poisoning many workers and in some cases their families. But asbestos diseases like lung cancer, asbestosis, and in this case, mesothelioma, take decades to appear. This is known as the latency of asbestos disease, and we know that somebody exposed regularly as a child in 1980 might only show measurable symptoms of asbestos disease some 40 years later. And despite predictions that the asbestos crisis was finally over, people have continued to develop asbestos-related diseases steadily, even after it was banned in most forms. But in Clark County, where Las Vegas and some other residential areas are situated, more people had mesothelioma than you'd expect. And not only that, many of the mesothelioma cases were in younger people. Could the culprit be environmental? Among the many industrial settings where asbestos was used throughout the 20th century were power plants and foundries. I actually grew up here in Las Vegas, and for a period of time, I was a contractor for Nevada Power Company. During my time there, I spent time over at the Reed Gardner Power Station, which was decommissioned and demolished between 2014 and 2017. Part of that demolition process included removing a lot of asbestos-containing material. So like many of you, I can only wonder how much asbestos I breathed on my job. Another major source of asbestos exposure in the Las Vegas area, or Henderson to be more specific, is the titanium plant established by TIMET around 1950. My father worked for TIMET during the 1950s, and he spent several years breathing asbestos every day. As you may know, my father died of an asbestos-related cancer, and I believe that was due to his exposure at the titanium plant. But TIMET and the other major industrial sites in Las Vegas haven't used asbestos for decades. So what could account for an abnormal rise in mesothelioma among young people with no known asbestos exposure? We'll take a look at one potential cause in part 2 of this video, Dusted in Vegas.